And I had create, for number 2, create a stormwater utility to fund the program or some other way that the city can fund it. That's one way. We have workshops with city council and stormwater master plan committees or whatever committees you have here that involved in that. Brief plan to planning commission and associates, educate the public, get public involvement. One of the things we've done in the past is inlets to mark them as the stormwater. If the people put things down that is not good, then it's going to end up in the streams. So we put a, I'm going to say, be careful what goes into them, or don't put anything in them other than stormwater. And another one I have is get other governmental agencies where there's monies available to help the city pay for some of these things, and take advantage of grants and low interest loans if that's possible. Okay, the recommendations I have on the bottom page 7 is develop a plan that meets the requirements and on the schedule that the city can meet. And we'll work with you to do that. And then we do audit checks to make sure that the city has met the requirements on the schedule, and if we don't, DNR will. And it should set realistic goals for this community. The community should have input to this process to make sure it's what you want, with guidance to make sure it's what happens. On the last page I have, we've had experience, and I'm going to talk about that with other communities, and we can make it work for Kennett so that it's not onus burden on the city, but yet meet the requirements of the community. So let's help get started with it, and open up the questions and everything about stormwater management plan.
Charles, just about every page you present to us, looks like all but 2, has something regarding revenue or cost.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of costs are we, ballpark are we talking about?
Well, whatever the city, whatever the problem, first we got to study what the problems are in meeting the state's requirements. And then we have to make a realistic goal. One of the things that DNR and government requirements will do, they will let the city try to match what they can do and spread it out over time. So we don't have to do everything the first 5 years. But what they're looking for is a plan to eventually accomplish what you need to do. And so that's what we'll work with you to see what kind of resources we have. One of the things that you have that we can put from the city's point of view to meet those goals, to accomplish them within a reasonable amount of time. And one of the things we found a way to raise revenue is to have a utility fee on stormwater generation, or based on impervious area. So if it's a large area that has a lot of impervious and a lot of runoff, then they would be charged so much per square foot or some unit of measure of the area that's generating runoff.
Which I'm not here very long, but I entirely disagree with that notion.
That's a good thing for this city to do.
I don't think that's a good thing at all.
That's fine.
But what I'm trying to find out is what is the substantial cost? It sounds like it's going to be. What is the cost based off your experiences? What's it going to cost this city?
Well, there'd be a charge for us to getting involved with you.
Yes, sir.
And I think we sent a contract to the city earlier.
I have. Yes, sir.
Right. So that has outlined that, and we only charge whatever effort we spend working toward it. Those are upset numbers.
Well, I mean, I know there's going to be a charge for your farming, but is there another cost that's...
Yes. So for instance, if there's something the city needs to do to meet those requirements, then we have to develop a plan how we're going to pay for that. And I can't tell you what those are yet. I need to study and see what the city, what we do is make a recommendation to the city and say, here's what we think you need to do to meet the requirements. And then we'll put a price on that, and then the city reviews it. If you want to reduce it or you want to spread it out over a longer period of time or whatever This is something we're gonna develop with you, obviously. I mean, it's not gonna, it's with information, and then we'll come back and discuss it with you, what we're coming up with. But it really depends on the community. That's why it's hard for me to answer, with specific numbers. We have some experience with other cities.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. You say you got experience with other cities, comparable size or whatever else, and what was, if there was a bottom line cost, what did it cost those cities to, get in compliance?
Well, the first 5 years was, in some of them, it's still going on, because it is a long-term plan. But we matched whatever they thought they needed to do to meet it. I'm trying to recall, we did, with the two that come to mind is Moberly and West Plains are two cities that we worked with. And just for an example, West Plains, they decided to do a utility. And we set a rate based on the square footage in the city.
But what I'm asking, though, what was the dollar cost? What was, when you're gonna establish a cost to the utility, we're gonna add $2 to everybody's utility bill, how much money did they need to generate to pay for what they did?
Okay, I know this probably sounds like I'm evading your question, but I'm not. We don't know till we develop the plan and what you agreed to do.
I'm asking you, what did it cost them? You said you did a
Well,
plan for them.
we had $1 and something per square foot of impervious area on a utility basis. If I remember right, it's like $170,000 a year, which was way over what they needed because they hadn't computed the impervious area quite correctly. And so when the first time we collected for that year, they got more revenue than what they needed. So we reduced the rate to make it in line with what they needed to do their stormwater plan. And I'm thinking it was like about half of that. I think we cut the utility rate down about half of what it originally was.
But and then that's an ongoing number forever?
No, it's till you meet the goals, and it depends on how far we spread that out in time. So what we would do is propose something for the first 5 years. And if I present that to the council, you say, no, that's more than we're willing to spend, then we'll have to spread it out, and do it in later years. Assuming that DNR will accept that. And we've worked with them, so we have an idea of what they will accept and what they won't.
But what do you do after those 5 years are up?
Well, there's another 5-year plan. So when we develop this plan, it will be for the future. In other words, and I go for 20 years. I forget exactly.
In other words, what Mr. Wheeler's getting at is an ongoing thing.
It is. But eventually, we'll accomplish whatever goals we need, and there may be an ongoing, but it'll be much reduced once we get everything in compliance. So one of the ongoing costs is like if you put in, have to submit plans for the erosion control and runoff during construction, then somebody has to review that to make sure and approve it, to make sure they're in compliance with the plan, whatever we come up with for that. And so that's why it's difficult for me to tell you what it costs, because it depends on, how much development occurs here. There may not be that much, so it may not be that expensive. But usually what DNR likes to see is somebody's reviewing at the city and making sure they're doing what is in the plan, because that's where they will come back. For instance, if somebody constructs something incorrectly or doesn't put in sediment control, whatever, erosion control techniques on the construction site, and DNR comes down here and finds out about it, and we have a plan that this is how we were going to control it, and they will come down on the city. So it's a joint thing. We'll work to help you try to meet the requirements of DNR in a practical fashion that's within what the city can afford, with the caveat that we eventually do get it in compliance with the Clean Water and DNR.
Yes, the 10,000 population requirement, we're at 10,009. If it drops down to 9,000 or 9,900 population, we're no longer involved in this process, correct?
I assume that's correct. I haven't seen that happen, so I can't tell you whether that be correct, but I would assume so. Because it only applies to cities that have 10,000 is there on the stage too.
Okay.
But we could definitely ask DNR that question and see what, because that would be up to them, but I would guess they would.
Just curious, I was just curious about that.
I haven't had that experience on the piece of
Any other questions for him? Well, we do appreciate you coming this evening, gives us a presentation,
Thank you.
and I'm sure that the proper committees will be taking a look at it and come back to the council and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any comments on the subject?
Well, we know it's been an ongoing process, and so, matter of fact, Ms. Sokolov sent out some information today that she got from DNR, so we can't stop doing what we're doing. We gotta keep pursuing until we come up with some avenue of improvement for the city or meet the requirements.
Meet the minimum requirements.
Yes.
We did have a question in the thought process, so today when I got that email from Ms. Sokolov, is that stormwater, should it not be a separate committee as opposed to part of the public safety committee?
It kinda is. When,
I think we actually approved it.
I don't know if we really approved it or you.
Your committee of one.
No, Mr. Chivers is on it, and actually, Mr. Wilson, we met, and had a conversation about it, and
There you go.
I'm assuming, at least for now, that's kinda to meet the requirements, because that is one of the things that we need to
Yes, ma'am.
do, is to have a stormwater
That's right.
committee. They used to have one, and, I mean, Mr. Carter's given me tons of material, and I found all that stuff in there, where they used to have a fairly active stormwater committee, and we actually have a stormwater plan. It's just not quite up to snuff. And as I understand it, the plan is ongoing and just always evolving and, you know, and changing. And, but that basic plan can pretty much stay the same. If you get one thing fixed, then you might want to, you know, and you got more money, obviously you want it to be the best it can be. I mean, that's just what we want for the city. Yeah. That was the story of the committee. That's what we're acting on now, right, Mr. Trapp?
All right, well, thank you all for your work. Item B, I want to ask that we table this. Item C, approval of renewal of Kennett Housing Authority for one officer, which expires on March 30th. This is for every 2 years.
Well, this one, for the one officer, is the one that's up for renewal, and every 2 years, you have the one for the two officers.
So,
We have a motion that's been approved,
Second.
or, motion and second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I need to ask the council to approve the abstracts of CLGW.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve CLGW?
Second.
Thank you. Ward 2 there for us. Without Ward 2, we wouldn't have a meeting, would we? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Also, we need to approve, this is where we take a little time, and look at the city of Kennett's abstract table. Give you a couple minutes to come through it. Any questions, please bring forward.
I did not see any amounts that jumped out and grabbed me as unusual. Will we approve?
Motion, there's a second.
Second.
And any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Anything from the committees?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Would you step back up to the podium and let's kind of direct this a little bit? I have meeting itis tonight, and I'm afraid my mind is from all the meetings. So, like a little bit of help here. Go ahead, would you start it off?
Good, we need to approve, 3 bids. We had bids out for the hiking and biking trail, the grant through MoDOT. We opened bids last Tuesday. The engineer reviewed them, and has suggested that we accept the low bid. Sorry, I got the wrong pages. We accept the low bid from Asa Asphalt for the hiking and biking trail for $148,103.50, which is in budget. Last time we had to go out for rebids because it was over, but because of the adjustments we made in the specifications, and street department's gonna do some work on that, trail and stuff like that, so, it comes in with bid. And that is the low bid, and the engineers recommend that we approve that.
Is there a motion to approve this particular bid?
Motion.
Second? Any discussion?
What's our match on
20%, which was previously approved.
that? Okay.
And that money has been set aside.
We do have a spending plan that the committee's seen and approved.
Okay, yeah.
I mentioned to you earlier that we had the money to do this, but I just had to manage the money till we get our reimbursement back on our other spending and stuff.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
A big reimbursement back, just $70,000 for last week, yesterday.
Well, we got the email on it, it won't come in until later this month.
Yes, so don't actually get it in hand.
We usually get that notice a week, 10 days ago.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got us out of line there. There is a motion on the floor, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion passes. Next subject.
Next bid was for the Floyd Street Overlay Project. This is on matching funds that we receive annually from Federal Highway, and it's an 80-20 deal. We have to go through the same process we did actually on the grant to get this. It's a spending deal, but that came in at $76,906, which was under budget. And that was from Apex Paving and Cape Girardeau. And the engineer recommends that we move forward with that recommendation.
Is there a motion to approve this particular bid?
Motion.
And a second, discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes.
The third bid was for, just for the city, didn't have anything to do with the state, there's no match on this. It was for a minimum of 1,500 tons of asphalt. The low bid was Asa Asphalt for $84 a ton for the 1,500 tons. They also gave us a bid of $88 a ton for the streets that we were going to hard surface. Well, that was in there. But the streets that we previously discussed with you about hard surfacing.
Oh, for gravel too.
Gravel,
Okay, not
yes.
that, okay.
And it's all,
It's all in one bid, yes.
and it's all new, there's no
Yeah,
recycled.
No recycled material in this, it's all new asphalt.
Great. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
And it's time for discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. And the first bid and the third bid is coming from transportation tax. Second one is coming from the federal.
Right, the mash, well, yeah, the mash, yeah. Your signature, we don't have the signature, we don't have a signature sheet yet for the state contract. Proceed on.
Yes.
All right. we had talked about, not doing a cleanup, citywide cleanup for the city of Kennett, but, we discussed it within the committee, and there's been some discussion here at the table about how to still rid the city of trash. We'll have to put it out for bids, but we've, explored the possibility of putting 6 roll-off dumpsters at the compost facility at a time for a 2-week period for 10 days, in regular compost hours, with same requirements, that if you want to come down there, that you still had to show driver's license with a city address, utility bill or something like that, and that we would open this up for people like we did several years ago at the fire station, that they could dump anything that was legal to be dumped, and we would oversee that dumping. If the bid would come in, the bid would come in at the same price that we're paying now for the roll-off down there, if we dump 6 dumpsters per day, all 6 of them per day for the 10 days, it would come in at around $18,000.
And this would permit people to dump at no cost?
No cost,
Yes.
where there's a minimal fee down there now,
You're talking for a 10-day period.
for a 10-day period.
And what's the citywide plan gonna cost us, Randy?
I think the last one, and some of you could help me, you were here, was running up in the upper 70s, $80,000, maybe in that, I hate to put an exact figure on it, because down, because I don't know, but I mean, it was in that.
It was.
Yeah.
Now, we'd also like to tie into that, a vegetation pickup, and we'd like to look at, trying to use the first week of every month for 6 months, as vegetation pickup. Monday would be Ward 1, Tuesday Ward 2, on like that, and try out the vegetation pickup program with no restrictions. And in order to do that, though, we'd like to take bids to see about what kind of cost we would have involved in that. And that way, we can run this for 6 months. If it works, then we have to consider what we're gonna do about it. If it doesn't work, then we'll put that to rest. But that way, we've given it a true trial to see if the vegetation plan is needed and viable.
You mean like bid it, bid it out to like private, like yard people or something?
Yes, like we did the alleyways. That's correct. I think it would be handled pretty much like the alleys were done.
Street and alley trimming, yeah.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Financing on this becomes an issue for us. We do have the telecommunication money that is left that we could use for that possibly. We have some money, we believe.
Cleanup Kennett campaign, or money I call it, you all authorized $75,000 for that earlier in the year, and the balance today, Tracy gave me, was $31,900 in that.
Is that for the housing though, for tearing down the houses? Isn't that what that's for?
That's what used the other part of that balance.
And that's what we're gonna use the rest of it for.
And we also have, a house that we sold a year and a half ago. That money is supposed to go toward, demo. Remember Chief Blunt, the $25,000-$30,000? 25. That's also to be applied to housing too.
Mhm.
We were for you that don't remember or don't know, we were donated a house. We sold the house, but the proceeds would go toward demo, and council approved that action.
So we give any thought to a timetable on this? I mean, we'd need a lot of publicity about it,
Yes, we
whatever.
would. Yes, we would. Traditionally, it's been done in May. If we can get the bids in and things like that, then we'd start looking at May, so it would run through the summer. But we haven't pushed it any further than that at this time because of the financing issue.
Well, I'm talking about the dumpster.
All of it.
it would have to be bid out, but from a previous experience at the fire station, and these gentlemen were there a lot more than I was, I think we had 2 and 3 down there at a time, and we couldn't, they stayed full, we couldn't keep them turned over fast enough, so that's the reason we were thinking having 6 down there at a time. Right now, the company that's done it in the past, Branham's, has other towns scheduled, you know, for pickups. And like I said, I know it'd have to be bid out, we're not offering it, you know, to them, you know, now, but that's who we've checked with. And right now, they're, the first 2 weeks of May are available. But all of their dates, you know, aren't, you know, for that, so.
What I would add on to Randy, we had those 3 behind the fire station, we was doing curbside. Now we're not gonna do curbside. So all the people that would put curbside are gonna be taking it down there. So I would say you'd be better to plan it for 6 than 3.
And that's why we need it in a controlled environment as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of, you had a lot of midnight dumping out there and
Yeah, we
putting
want
it
it
into
controlled.
control walls and this type of stuff. Well, this highway in the fence during regular hours, we'll have someone there to oversee the operations.
We might be able to have, if we go along with that, have a big front end loader and see if we can just pack it down a little bit better than loose garbage. Also, you were saying 10 days, is that 10 working, not to be too technical, but
Yeah,
clarify that.
Compost open 5 days a week, so it would be
2
Tuesday
weeks.
through Saturday.
2 weeks.
Be, you know, so it'd be Tuesday through Saturday and then following Tuesday through Saturday. Well, we didn't think we could get everything we needed in a week.
And that would
We didn't
actually
think we
carry
could
the,
turn the dumpsters over fast enough.
and that would actually carry the trash out of town, wouldn't it? It wouldn't move from my address to 2 blocks away.
Theoretically.
And if we know about it, when we plan with them, we'll take the property maintenance and try to blitz it with a notice that they hang it on door, if someone decided they can take it down there.
That's a good idea.
We've usually done that when we know there's a trash or a citywide cleanup, but as soon as Randy and him get the dates, we'll coordinate with him and start blitzing 2 weeks ahead with a notice where they can take it, maybe a little map on it or something, we can run it off.
So they have to keep Mr. Wilson out of it at night.
The question becomes the financing of it, and if we have that extra 25,000 from the sale of that house, do we indeed have enough money in the citywide cleanup fund to continue along this line? Because the estimate for doing the vegetation pickup and the roll-offs is roughly 36,000. But this is 2 different projects though,
But that's the total.
total. So estimate.
We have 31 and 25.
Wells Fargo.
We do have room, but
Ricky died.
The Wells Fargo had foreclosed on, and they donated it to the city.
So the money should just be in general rev.
It's supposed to be earmarked for cleanup.
The reserve fund.
Yeah.
Reserve fund.
We had a problem, that money didn't get put in, and then the council instructed to be put back in later. It was done in council meeting.
To answer your question though, the vegetation pickup, 6-month time frame you're talking about, that would lead into the following budget year, which will,
half of it could come.
half of it will come from the
That's
bill
true.
budget.
That's true.
And that would do a legit attempt, you know, that would give you a true figure. Once a month, everyone knows, if you wanna get rid of vegetation, put it by the road that first week of the month,
No restrictions, no,
it gets hauled away.
put your limbs, leave whatever out there and let's go with it.
That sounds like a great plan in my eyes.
Do we put a 6-month moratorium on vegetation burning? I mean, that's where you're gonna see what you're gonna get.
That's a great idea.
I wouldn't have a problem at all with that, just, if there's a means to dispose of it, that's efficient.
I mean, that's gonna show you how much you're gonna have. If you're allowing them to burn it, you might think you're not having a good pickup and not do the program. So I say, when you do that, we enact a 6-month moratorium on all vegetation burning within the city, because now you have a program to pick it up beside the road.
So what you're finding is vegetation, leaves and.
Leaves and limbs.
So are those leaves
Grass
have to be
clipping.
bagged up like we talked before and the.
We'd have to go with a eco-friendly bag.
y'all rank them?
If they go to court meeting,
We wouldn't be handling them, so,
That's true.
pick them up in plastic bags, that'd be up to them.
Tracy's got to look
Or we would be
Whoever does
disposing
the
them,
bid.
we would be taking them.
No, not from contractors.